Very good morning and a warm welcome to everyone to today's session, a special set of series known as 12 Months Safety Challenge Knowledge Webinar Series. We thank you for taking your personal time and participating today with us. We have initiated this series from January 2020, picking safety topics for each month. Our previous topics for each month, starting from January, included fire and life safety, electrical safety, occupational safety, driving safety, safe evacuation and egress, workplace safety, and fire prevention. We have been continuing and doing this series every last Saturday of each month. This is purely a knowledge sharing series and we are in the 8th month. We at East Corp Group are in the domain of fire safety security. Our topic for today's webinar is safety compliance. There are a lot of misconceptions on safety compliance. We hope this will be a valuable and knowledge sharing series. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Afrin, I'm audible, clear?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Warm welcome to all of us again. I think there are a lot of people who have been consistent since January that we started this monthly webinar series, picking up very, very relevant topic. Maybe topic is common, but then there are many insight that people need to know when they are doing a professional roles and responsibility at the workplace. So we have carefully chosen the topic so far, and this is I'm glad that we are on a 8th series now, and this will continue for another 4 months till December 2020, picking up very relevant topic. So I really thank you again for taking your time out on the weekend and spending with us 1 hour. Today the topic that we have chosen is not so unknown. It is very, very close to your roles and responsibility. Those people who are into the profession, specifically into safety, I'm sure this word is very, very close to their heart. And sometimes I feel that this word is actually a kind of a element which always keeps you away. It is like a untouched element where people do not want to touch more, or people do not want to dig more, or people do not want to explore more. Because there are a lot of misconcept, I would say. I'm using the word misconcept because in our philosophical way, I can always say that when you know both the side, then you know the other side very well, right? So compliance, if you really want to know better, then we have to remove all your ignorance. You have to remove all the darkness attached to that particular word so that it becomes a meaningful word for you, and actually you start using that in your current profession. Mostly compliance is a word that is associated with a lot of terms. Specifically, rules and regulations are very common. Laws, bylaws, acts. We always puzzled into that area, and the moment we get into that area in a puzzled way, in a confused way, in an ambiguous way, it becomes more complex, isn't it? So this 1 hour that I'm going to spend here, I'm not going to tell you the list of the compliance that every company should have. I'm sure that information is available, accessible to everyone. I'm trying to remove certain things here so that you are more clearer in terms of knowing compliance, adapt compliances, and improve your compliances. Yeah. So with this note, I really thank you again for being here. You can actually ask your questions in Q&A box, whatever queries that you may have, and we will definitely try and answer it with our best ability, if at all I can answer. And we can take some of the questions here also live in case we have time available. Yeah. So technically what we are trying to cover in today's session is all about safety compliance, because there are a lot of compliances which are associated with your business. It could be finance, business, uh, HR. Name any function, there is always a risk associated to that function, and there is a compliance requirement to mitigate that risk. But just to save the time and be focused on the discussion, what we are trying to cover here is all related to the safety compliances. What is that is needed? Why people are having apathy about it? What is the thing that I need to create that awareness in the organization so that people are loving that element rather than hating that element? Yeah. So these are some of the answers that we'll try and get into. Before I start, let me give you a quick introduction for some of the new faces here who have joined today. I'm the founder of East Corp Group. We founded this organization in 2013, which is primarily focused on fire safety and security domain. I'm into this domain since last 27 plus years, and now this becomes my not only just profession but a passion also. Fortunate to work with many companies in India and abroad till 2013 before I started this venture. I love doing seminars and always love being a trainee also. So I'm always happy to be a student, because if you have to be a good trainer, you need to be a good trainee also. So I always be passionate about learning and sharing both. So that's what my quick introduction all about. We have in-house 3 companies, which is specifically doing the services in terms of fire and life safety, physical security, and environment health safety. So all 3 domains have been catered by 3 billing entities, but it's a one brand that unites all. It's a one office that unites all. It's a one resources that unites all. So that's all quick. I am not here to promote anything here, but to just to gain and share the knowledge on the topic that we decided. So Afrin is available for any queries that you may have. She is more than willing to help you for any queries or any question that you may have about our company as such. Okay, so let me actually share you one incident which actually opened my eyes, and it was a recent event actually. I don't know whether many people have actually heard that in media or not, but I thought it is very relevant for all of us to know that incidents, and that incidents probably can actually relate to our topic of the discussion today. I think it was 2016 June, 2 young men died. Their bodies were found in the tank in, if you know the place Anna University in Chennai in 2016. They were employees of a subcontracting company, and that company actually was hired by this university to seal the tank with a rubber to prevent the air leakages in that particular tank. And the tank was being constructed as the part of Ministry of Renewable Energy. So it was a government project to do that activity in that particular university, to explore the possibility of using compressed air to store energy. So to demonstrate that concept, this was the task given to the subcontractor to seal that leak. These 2 workers, I think their name was Ramesh Shankar and Deepan. They arrived at the site around 11:30 a.m. and began the work. By afternoon, around 3 o'clock, when they were pulled out of the tank, that was the time that that incident occurred. Dipan was on the spot dead, and Ramesh Shankar, while still he was breathing at the last moment, he also died in few minutes later. So both of the people, workers of that subcontracting company, died at around 3 o'clock on the same day on June 2016. So any incident that happens in India, I'm sure you know that a uh, lot of discussion starts, blame game starts, statements coming from every corner of the house. So as from this university and the police, that what they said is that it seemed that Shankar and Dipan had been working with two chemicals, which is silicon and toluene. And toluene, if you know, there are some safety professionals here. It's a solvent derived from benzene. So while it is less harmful than benzene for inhalation, it can cause serious damage to your nervous system. And it could be even fatal injury also. And exactly same thing happened here because of that chemicals. When they were in a confined space working in the tank, this has happened. Now when the incidents happened, they also realized as outcome of the inquiry that these two people were given no safety gear and no supervisor from either Anna University or their employer. Their employer name was around, I think, Kabimina Rubber Products was the entity name, was the subcontract name, who was supposed to do this job. And there was no supervisor from that company as well in doing this particular task by these two gentlemen, young guys. So if you look at that incidents, look at that tragic death that happened in this scenario without any safety gear, confined space job, handling chemicals, no supervision, no SOP, no instruction. We can see that there are a lot of laws and bylaws and acts that we have existed in India. There are at least of dozens of boards, directorates, inspectorates, institutions and bodies exist in India since independence that deals broadly with the working condition of people, workplace, and specifically occupational health safety, which is the common term that we use legally as in India. But despite all, these circumstances that led to the death of Shankar and Deepan. It's really concluded that there is no law at all, isn't it? On top of it, let me also give you a layer of this incidents. The Department of Industrial Health and Safety, which is DISH, which is the short name acronym, which was also involved in the inspection and investigation of this incident. What they reacted was really enormous, was really strange. The then director of DISH, he stated that after a preliminary investigation, they didn't focus on the incidents or learning curves. What they came out in the media saying that the case did not fall within his purview. So he just defined his responsibility that it doesn't come within the purview of laws and bylaws. It didn't come under the Factories Act 1948 because the company, that subcontracting company, Kabimina Rubber Products, employed less than 10 people. So if you know the law of Factories Act, that is only applicable when you have a factory premises which is employing more than 10 people, then only that act is applicable. So here in this case, they had less than 10 people on roll, and that's how the legally it didn't come under the purview of Factory Act as well. That's what the DISH inspector authority came up and gave a clarification on. Also, they indicated that incident happened outside the manufacturing premises. So again, look at the loopholes that we already have in our laws and bylaws, that you do the work outside your manufacturing place. Again, that doesn't come under the purview of law to protect the work safety as such. It was also not covered by building and other construction workers, which is a regulatory of Employment and Condition of Services Act, because again, more than 10 workers were required for this act to apply, and for the fact that the cost of the construction had to be more than 10 lakh rupees. Even the cost of construction was less than 10 lakh rupees, which is also a requirement of a act, which is Employment and Condition of the Service Act. So isn't it, this is a disturbing scenario? Having so much of acts and bylaws in this country, we still have leakages. And if you look at the irony, we have, and it is not me who's saying, it is the National Statistics Commission, which is officially making a statement that in India, more than 90% of the workforce and about 50% of the national product comes from informal sector. Informal sector means those are not registered or qualified to register under the act given by the statutory requirement. So look at the unattended workforce, their life, their work practices, which will not be addressed by the rules and act, which is actually meant for the entire country. If that large force is unattended, unaddressed, look at what will happen and what compliances we are talking about. Yeah. So it's a large workforce and there is no answer. And this is what predominantly the concern that we professionals need to address. What about those unattended labor force which are not coming under the laws and bylaws? There are many services which are so-called non-hazardous that are also associated with several occupational health problems, but not addressed by the law act. Although we have a sophisticated act, we have even national safety policy which was drafted in 2009. We have Ministry of Labor law, everything is available, but again, we are not able to address the entire construction and that industry that involves the unsafe act and practices. So I think the reason of sharing this incidence is that the question that comes to in our mind, is there any safety compliance in the industry? If it is so, where it has been followed, how it has been followed, why it has been followed? So let me ask this question to this audience here. If anybody wants to say on this particular one word, what compliance means to you? Yeah. So can you raise the hand in case somebody wants to? Let me unmute. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Das. Mr. Das, can you unmute yourself? Okay, maybe by mistake. Okay, Padrish. Mr. Patel, can you unmute? Okay, if it is by mistake, you can then just, yeah. Mr. Patel, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's by mistake, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So I will just lower all hands. In case somebody wants to speak up, you can still raise the hand. What compliance means to you? Anybody? Okay, so no problem. I will let's play a quiz here where you'll be asking a question. I'm just throwing a question here for everyone to answer. So at least we can pick up the minds in terms of this particular word that we are talking about. So Afrin, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this is a question for everyone. Fully compliant organization means.
So the question is not available on the screen. Only we can see the blank screen.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, now we can see.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So this is a question that I'm asking for everyone to answer. A fully compliant organization means, first option, first answer could be a risk-free organization. Second answer, a safe organization. Third answer, a sustainable organization. Yeah, so you can take 5-10 seconds and just quickly click on one option that you think that is right for you. What do you mean as a fully compliant organization? Few more are left out. I'll give another 5 seconds more. It's not a complex question that needs a lot of deliberations. It's just a pick. So please take a moment and click on the option that you think that is right according to you. What your gut feel says. Okay, so should I end the poll? Okay, so let me end the poll, and this is the result. Can you see the result?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the result of the poll right now we have run. 54% people think that a fully compliant organization means a sustainable organization. 38% people consider that it's a safe organization, and 8% still feel that a risk-free organization. Yeah. So I will not right now answer this. What is the right answer for this? I will address this during this presentation, and you will find the right answer at the end of this webinar. Yeah. Thank you so much for participation. Yeah. So let's look at this word before we get into the safety compliance mode. Okay, if you look at the two words, safety and compliance, and then differentiate these two words, actually it means it's like a electricity in the bulb. So both actually exist together. Without electricity, bulb cannot be ignited. So likewise, safety compliance goes hand in hand. Yeah, that's the reason we are using this term here as a safety compliance. But just to, in a microscopic way, understand the true meaning of compliance. Now, why I'm asking you to look at this as a retrospect, because if you are clear about this word, one word as a compliance, as a true meaning to you, then the entire mindset will get changed and will be becoming more clearer towards this compliance aspect as such. Because all for no, most of the technical people, if you just throw this question, compliance, the answer comes is that following rules and regulations, following acts, conforming to the certain procedures. That's what the compliance means, isn't it? Some of people have not answered it, but I'm sure had some of you answered this question, the answer could have been in this fashion, that compliance means complying or conformance to certain requirements, and that is rules, regulations, laws, acts, standards, policies, all the stuffs, right? But let's look at the meaning of this one word spiritually way. And why I'm using this purpose of using spiritual, because when we relate any business terms in your day-to-day life and look at that psychologically, a spiritually way, then probably you will know the other side of the coin. Now look at it, the entire universe that you see around, it is in a specific mode. Earth revolving around with yourself since billions of years, we don't know even, but in the same speed. I think there is a compliance there also in nature. Sun rises from one direction only every day. It is nothing but a compliance. So all our human beings that exist on this earth or planet are also meant to behave in certain humanity, and that's what is compliance means, isn't it? In our Upanishad or in our old ancient days also, Ramayana, Mahabharata, if you look at it, the major cause of those incidents is again a compliance and non-compliances. So if you look at the spiritual way, this term exists since many years, since our old age. It's just like if we are trying to use this technical term and adding it to our profession, and we are making it our life complex. And we are only associated terms with only rules, regulations, acts, fines, punishments, and that stuff like that. But it is beyond that, isn't it? So when you look at that meaning, true meaning of this compliance, it is meant for your own. I mean, it's ultimately meant for you. The rules, acts came later because of the non-compliance. So that's what I said in the beginning, that when you know both the side, you know the first side better. So when you know non-compliance better, you know compliance. Currently, we always term that non-compliance means rejection, resistance to adapt certain change or rules or regulations is something non-compliance. And non-compliance is always been treated with some fines, punishment, and suspicious way. So here we fail. We have to understand the psychology behind non-compliance also, then only we can enforce compliance. It is always said that you can't have two expectations from one person. I mean, like police, you can't have a bad cop and good cop, right? You can't have a firefighter to motivate you on or promoting you on codes and standard, right? Their job is to protect. So enforcement and encouragement cannot go hand in hand. Either a person can be responsible for an enforcement or otherwise. So when you look at the compliance in the organization, and that too specifically safety compliance, you have to understand the psychology behind why person is not wearing a helmet. Why the person is resisting of not wearing a helmet. Is it because of discomfort? Is it because of the product? Is it because the product coming in the process? And when you address that particular area, and when you make that situation as the complementing situation, then the helmet becomes his hand in gloves, isn't it? Hot work permit is supposed to be a procedure in your company, but still people follow shortcuts. You have to find out why people follow the shortcut. Is it because of the procedural delay? Is it because of the time constraint? Is it because of the complexity involved in getting that permit. So when you address that particular issue and educate that person who is actually the user of that hot water permit, then there is no ignorance. Then there is a full knowledge. There is a complete engagement and there is a complete acceptance towards your policy or procedures or rules, regulation that you follow, isn't it? It's a very simple thing, but I think it's important for everyone to understand both the parameters. And specifically, if you are a responsible role in enforcing compliances in your organization, it's a tough job. I know it's a tough job, but if you handle that in a psychological way and get to the root cause, encourage people rather than enforcing, then everything becomes easy. I'll come to the fire part also, which is more predominantly in terms of compliances and how the leakages are happening in India. I'll come to that, little later, but just let's move forward and understand the true irony or sentiments behind the compliances in India. There was a survey and there was a scientific analysis where it was quite evident that the legal obligations was a primary force for adapting compliances. Or there could be a statutory force, maybe an inspector visiting your factory or premises, enforcing you to have a compliance. People are adaptable to it. So if you look at most of the reason, what are primary, it is that organization reached a particular size. Maybe people are waiting for organization to grow up and then only they look at the compliance, like exactly what has been derived from the Factory Act, because it's not a mindset. It is the created. It is a code of conduct that we have created in the bylaws that any industry which is less than 10 persons need not to follow the rules. But what exactly we have learned from the incidents is exactly the same thing as irony. So it is coming from there. Supplier, customer or client pressure. If you are exporting certain things and the customer is insisting for certain compliances, maybe US FDA, maybe ISO, maybe many regulations that are available globally, best practices, unless until you apply and get those certifications and get complied with, will not be able to deal with you. So force is coming from there. Insurance companies, just to cover up the losses, they look for some compliances in conjunction with some of the other systems. Maybe you've got some hazardous systems, you've got certain chemicals involved. You need to follow certain compliance, like what exactly we have in our bylaws. Maybe you have some liquid fuel, combustible fuel. You must have certain compliances, otherwise you'll not be able to start the operations, function the operations. Also, there is a less factor, but yes, there is a contributing factor in terms of awareness in the industry. How health and safety has been talked about, perceived in the industry. And also there is another reason for compliance is if you have an accident which is experienced of your own company, compliance starts from there. Till that point, business as usual. We are risk-free. We are a safe organization. The moment any incident happen, then we woke up our eyes and that's how things will start everywhere. Yeah. So let us understand the irony. It's not coming from inside, it is coming from outside. All the reason that I can see, what is the common thing here that you notice? All the reasons are coming from outward. Somebody else asking you to do that, isn't it? It's a really magic outcome that you can see, which is you have to read in between lines. And when you look at that inside, then only know where is the gap. When you look at the organizational profile also, just to continue with the sentiment, the most factor that we see is regulatory compliance. because otherwise we are not able to operate our business in the similar way, in the desired way. We are not able to manufacture, we are not able to produce, we are not able to function the way it is to be intended for. So regulatory compliances is a predominantly motivating factor. And if you look at it in today's world, there's no history or there's no addressable, but if you look at in both addressable market and non-addressable market, when you say non-addressable, that means those who are not registered but are still exist in some form, they are doing some workplace practices. There is certain activity going on, may not be under the purview of law, but they are also important. If you look at compliance point of view, we are predominantly abide by this regulatory compliance as a minimum requirement, basic requirement. We don't go beyond. And most of the organizations fall into this bracket, regulatory compliance board. And they find happy about it. They find that's enough for me. That's the first level, basic level. There is also second level where some people, some companies, based on their awareness, based on their knowledge insight, based on the incidences that they have learned, based on the mistake that I've seen, they created their own company's policies and code of conduct, what you can say. And they ensure that this has been followed by all the employees within the premises. So again, it becomes their own compliance, isn't it? There is a further layer where some of the companies will opt for what is available internationally. Let me adapt the best practices, which may not be necessarily written in any of the rules or code of conduct, but it is like an unwritten rule. Although my customers will not demand for it, but if I have to really get to the next level of business, I must adapt these compliances, which are available as industry best practices. So if you look at it, most of the industry either fall into the first three brackets, either regulatory or inside companies or industrial best practices. But there is also another element that I have mentioned here is a code of honor, which probably doesn't exist in most of the organizations because it's a culture specific concept. It is coming from top. It is a consistent activity. It is a sustainable activity. And it is coming from inward. All three things that you see on the first three lines, regulatory, company, industry, is coming from outward. That means it is something from outside my organization is asking for it or demanding on it. But the code of honor, what I mentioned here, is coming from inward. What I want, what I should do, what I need to do, which may not be necessarily purviewed by any of the codes and acts and standards. So I think this is very, very important element when you look at it in your organization, despite of any size, any process, any activity that you do, whether it's hazardous, non-hazardous, the main important element that you need to understand, what is your code of honor? What are your ethics? How do you want to do your business? What's your governance? When you declare yourself as an ethical or a governance company, you will adopt all the laws and bylaws. You will not have any shortcuts. Doesn't matter, you will have hindrances, you will have complexities, but be it, you will accept that as full acceptance, because that is what your dharma is. That is what your code of honor is. So I think in business, this is what the basic need that is important. Now, how do you get that developed? It's a tough task. It's not that easy. Training is very, very common, which is again a common term that is available in industry. But again, how effectively are you able to do the training? When you're educating your skilled workers or unskilled workers on enforcing hot work permit, are you only showing them that a piece of paper that when you start these operations, you need to get this form from this department, you need to sign yourself, you need to have an extinguisher, you need to go to the second department, get signed, you need to go to third department, get signed. Once you have stamps, you need to deposit this, have a pink copy with you, and then start the operations. If you have a training containing all these bullet points, it's not a training. It's the information. It's the instruction. It's a direction. So we need to move beyond. We need to empower that welder that what is this piece of paper means to him. Why it is important for him to have. It is for him to protect his life. It is for him to protect his property where he is working. It's a responsible act. When you create that sentiment in the mind, in the form of training, that is effective training. Enforcement policies, if you just show them only penalties, okay, you will be penalized for 1,000 rupees if you smoke here. If you have only notices there, if you have only cameras there, probably it may work, it may not work. Because you are not able to give the emphasis behind all the enforcement that you do. So clear your objectives behind your enforcement policies. Create that culture in the organization. Engage people. Why smoking is bad in the workplace? Of course, smoking is bad as a life. You educate on that. That's a great science. But if you prohibit people not to smoke inside the factories or your premises because 1, 2, 3, 4, if you engage them in a responsible way, they will acknowledge it more. They will act more. And they will accept that as a responsible act, isn't it? There are many organizations where even bosses will have a casual attitude, means chalta hai. Arey, chalo na, hot hour permit, I get it signed in the evening, you start job. Possible, maybe because of time constraint, because of something. But the moment you have that attitude, following the shortcuts at your superior level, what identity are you going to give to your juniors? That if my boss can do, why can't I? Isn't it? So when you have that support from a commitment from a superior level or from top people, then entire organization becomes a disciplined organization. It becomes a compliant organization. So these are very, very simple strategies that you need to work on getting your compliances. Let's look at the other side of the coin. How do we move from a basic compliance to a beyond compliance company? As I mentioned to you, all the circles that we saw, regulatory company, it's all driven from specific department. It's a departmental activity that I need to issue a hot work permit. This is a format. This is the latest format, which is part of my ISO 45001 document. So I have to have a record. I must monitor it. I must update it. I must issue it. So it is all departmental activities. It's a basic compliance. It's a need. It's important that you need to do it. It is critical for everyone to do it. But visa-wise, if you look at, if there is a culture which is coming from top management that, okay, you do welding work at your premises, but is there any way that I can do a third-party audit where I will pick up an input from a third-party specialist that my system is prudent. My hot work permit process is foolproof. Do not have any leakages. So do I encourage my organization to have an audit risk assessment, which may not be written in any of the laws, but it will come from top management. So that is called beyond compliance. You have a lot of programs, formats, processes in your safety department because that's their KRA. The more work that they create in the form of these templates, forms, processes, probably they are doing more effective jobs. That's what the myth people carry. I'm saying that it is essential. They should keep on doing it. But at the same time, if you have that activity as a activity coupled with your risk assessment, and ensuring that whatever processes that you are doing are complementing or relevant to your organization. It could be JSA, it could be hot work permit, it could be maintenance work that you do. Anything, that activity that you do as a part of your routine EHS activity must be coupled with certain proactive assessment, which will enhance that activity more, which will create that sentiment in the minds of the people, user of the people, that this is relevant for me, this is critical for me, this is essential for me. Or maybe there is a gap here, I need to learn from there. So again, it is the beyond compliances. Basic compliance is always reactive. When any incident occurs, you do the investigation analysis. You put their accident history that this incident happened. But proactive is like you do root cause analysis. Why this has happened? Why it should not get repeated in future? What are my leakages in the systems? That is what is your beyond compliance. You may have necessarily a lot of tools, PPEs to do your job effectively. Maybe there is mask, maybe hand gloves, people are using it. But the user of that hand glove also should know that this hand gloves is rated for what application. Whether does it have a lifetime? Does it have an ISI mark? Does it really helpful for me to protect my hand? If you empower that information or knowledge with that user, that is beyond compliance. Yeah. Otherwise, you can see a lot of extinguishers in and around, which is a check mark done. But if those extinguishers are not maintained, refilled, hydro tested, people are not even know how to use it. It's just a compliance, but you're not moving beyond compliance, isn't it? So very, very simple steps that I want to give you here. So how do you move your company from existing to the next level? So this is a matrix that I want to give you here. And here is the answer that of the question that I've enrolled in the beginning. What is that insight to make your compliant company? If you look at the flow, the conventional industry that follows, it starts with compliance. That I have my regulatory compliance, I am fully compliant, and that's about it. They don't move beyond compliance. They follow very meticulously. All the formats are there, all the ISO certifications are in place, everybody has been trained, all the training have been recorded. It's all compliant. But the next stage is, are you able to view your risk correctly? What is a risk? What is a risk management? Because today industry is no more just a compliant driven company. It is moved much beyond than compliant company. They are not looking at even current date. They are looking at futuristics. How my business is going to be relevant in the next 10 years time or 20 years time? What is my risk involved? Is my resources and capacities are enough that if I remain with this compliant, will I exist? Will I be competitive? So that's what the risk management comes in play. That's the second level of play that organizations need to have. Just because if it is not written in any of the code, you don't do it. So you remain in that first level only. Fire and life safety risk assessment or an audit, which is so far a voluntary act, although it is in a guideline document in the National Building Code 2016 now, although it has not been so popular. Because why? It is not been captured in the compliance. It is your risk. And you must know your risk. And what is a way to identify risk? Do your internal risk assessment, do your external risk assessment. Analyze your risk, mitigate your risk, keep your plan ready, keep your disaster management plan ready, keep your SOPs ready, keep your manuals ready. And that's what it leads to governance, mindset. It's a little heavy word to understand, but it's a very meaningful word. How your culture of your organization is, how governance has been maintained. Are you only looking at short terms or looking at long term? What is your investment? What is your mindset in terms of managing the entire risk and compliances both? So risk and compliances will come together, and that's what it comes to as a governance. And the last and important, which is the purpose, which is the foundation of all three, is making your organization sustainable. And this COVID is a really pandemic, period where people are now looking at making their organization sustainable, so that in case of any wrongdoings happens, in case of any eventualities happen, they are still sustainable, they are still competitive, they are still surviving, they are still growing. So if you look at this flow, compliance will originate from where? When your mindset of the organization is sustainable. When you want to make an organization sustainable, you will create a governance mechanism to play on it. You will identify risk, and then of course a byproduct will be compliance. Compliance will be a side product. But today we are just reverse, and that's the reason compliance is blocking all the insight, because we think that compliance is so big, it's so cumbersome that I can't see beyond that. But if you go on the other side of it, make your organization sustainable. I will not compromise this, because this is what my practice is, this is what my ethics are, this is what my inward thinking is. I will evaluate my risk, and whatever is required, I will do it, I will follow it. There is no compromise. Then compliance becomes this, and sustainability becomes this. So that's how you need to change the mindset, and that's how the journey of an ordinary company to an excellence company. And specifically in terms of safety, this is what is important. So let's quickly look at what are the myths people still carry. I agree, maybe there may be some people who will say that, sir, what you are saying is absolutely right. I understand. Many things are well said, but still, the word will come. So still, is it affordable? How much is it going to cost? What is my cost of compliance? So when you look at the cost of compliance, you look at the cost of non-compliance also. Look at both the side. Don't look at it on one side. Just because you do not have an accident, your cost of compliance, you think it is little 1% or 0.5% of the project cost. But imagine if any incident occur, any accident occur, any fatality occurred, what is the cost of non-compliance? So it is myth people still carry that it is compliance need a lot of resources. I need to have a compliance manager. I need to have ethics manager. I need to have a lot of permissions, clearances. I need to pay a lot of people. I need to pay a lot of department. I need to keep a watch. You look at that way. It is not a expense. It is an investment, because it is coming from where? It is coming from my ethics. I will not compromise it. And it is built into my proposition in such a way that I will be able to optimize cost in such a way that I will be always beyond compliance. And there are researchers available where if you have best practices in your organization, it yields a lot of good results. It gives you a lot of advantages which are hidden, which are visible. Productivity, moral, your output, your efficiency, your effectiveness, everything comes. Only your mindset need to change. So it's not that it is always going to attract higher money. You need to optimize it. You need to look at it how you can effectively consider this as investment than expense. Most of the people consider that it's a very complex topic and it's a very complex thing to manage. Yeah. I do understand there are certain things where we have no control. There are certain departments in a government way, that is what they have been working in ages, there is less control on us. But is it something that is leading me to shy away from it or running away from it than facing it? That's a question. So there are a lot of technologies available. There are a lot of software available. There are a lot of tools available where you can manage your compliance so easily, so user friendly. You know exactly on the tip of your, fingerprints. You know when the renewal is going to happen. How do you do it? And now today, fortunately, we are in an era of digital world. I remember we used to file the tax in a physical way. Now today it's not. They don't even see face to face. They don't know who's coming. So today we are we are in a era where very transparency brings your more value. So it's no more complex. It's only you who are making that complex because of the mindset that you carry with. Yeah. So look at the advantage of being a compliant company. Look at the merits. Look at the uh, uh, moral that you are going to get out of these compliances in the productivity way, and then it becomes very, very easy. It's not a complex. This is very important. This is what my favorite topic is. Most of the people that I meet in the form of fire and life audit that I do, or safety audit I do, people always give a file for a desktop review for us during the audit and say that, okay, sir, here is my training record, here is my model record, here is my accident history, here is my maintenance record, here is my disaster manual, here is my SOP. Everything is all complied. But question is, if you are a compliant company, are you safe? May not be. Because if the spirit of the compliance is not correct, then although you are a compliant company on a paper, you are still unsafe. Like what I mentioned about the extinguishers, you may have a lot of extinguishers, but if you have not seen those extinguishers in the last 5 years and they are just hanging on the wall or sitting on the ground without a maintenance, in the event of fire, if you need an extinguisher to save your life, it doesn't have a powder. It is not going to do the job of extinguishing. So always you need to balance both. You need to be compliant, that's the first stage, but you need to also see that you are safe. And how do you ensure that safe? You are able to do that risk management correctly. So when you know your risk, when you know your mitigation plan, ensuring that you are going to be safe, then that's what your balance is going to be. So the first question, if you remember, fully compliant company doesn't guarantee that you are a safe company. Doesn't guarantee that you are risk-free company. Because risk is always there. You cannot eliminate. You can only minimize the impact of the risk. There is nothing risk-free. When our life is not risk-free. Now today I'm talking, I don't know what will happen after 1 hour. There's no answer. There's pure uncertainty. Right? So compliance and safety, you need to really balance both. You cannot say that I'm a compliant, that means I'm safe. There is also myth people carry that compliance is only restricted to large organizations, MNCs. I'm a small company, I'm a SME. But maybe I'm storing a lot of goods, hazardous material. Maybe I have a lot of practices which will yield to occupational health and hazard. So how do I address those? So compliance, as I mentioned to you, regulatory, in company, your best practices, on top of it, your ethical, you have to manage all. And it is applicable to every organization. Doesn't matter, even if you are a single owned company, still compliance is applicable. Just one person company. So it is your life, it is your process, it is your business that you have, where risk associated are there in terms of safety. This is again a very common, I'm sure many people will have a smile on their face by reading this. It's a mere paperwork. Yeah, it's a mere paperwork. That I will have this NOC, I will have this clearances, I will have this permission, I will have this license. and I'll file it, and that's about it. And that's what the major mistake happened in the organization, that paper remains as a paper in the file. It doesn't go as a information. It doesn't go out as a knowledge to the employees or to the user. When that paper becomes a meaningful knowledge piece, then it is no more a paperwork. You know exactly the reason and purpose behind that permission or license that you have. There is a responsibility attached to that paperwork. So you have to understand the sentiment behind each compliance activity that you do. And if you just file it and only wait for next renewal to happen, till that time it is going to carry a dust, then it is going to be paperwork. It is just checkbox that you're done, your KRA is done, your increment is done, but then you are not able to do your job still with honesty. And this is again a very common thing. I can buy whatever I want. Unfortunately, India, this is what our spirit is, which is changing slowly and steadily, but never ever consider that compliance can be bought. It has to be acquired, it has to be inherent, and it's a continuous journey. It is not a destination. You can buy a paper, that's a fees, that's a professional fees that my government might charge, but ultimately when your spirit of getting that permission or license or approval, when you know that spirit well in a true sense, then it is no more a price that you will attach to it. You will give a lot of importance, you will give a lot of values to implement that compliance in your day-to-day manner. And then last and final is what I mentioned in the beginning, is that all things related to compliance, rules, regulations, standards, policies, procedures, it's all coming from outward. It's all coming from external world. But look at what is my inner voice. Look at what is my risk, what I need to adhere to, what I need not to adhere to. My do's and don'ts have to be clear. My good and bad have to be clear. When I differentiate that, and when I have a balance of both external and internal, then it's become a culture of the organization that it's a compliant organization. It's a sustainable organization. It is going to long last. It is not going to be a short-term organization anymore. Yeah. So this is all from me. I will pick up some questions if in case Mr. Sodhi, compliance revolves around two words: intent and spirit. Yes, you are absolutely right. Intent and spirit. Yes. So if you have any questions, you can raise the hand before I conclude this session. I'll be more than glad to assist with you. Anyone has any questions? No questions? Okay, great. I hope this was really insight, because I wanted to give this information in a little different way, in understanding and clearing your concept better, rather than telling you what are the rules available in India, what are the compliances available in India, what to follow. That is the information that is available everywhere. It is accessible to everyone. You don't need my webinar, or you don't need to invest on this 1 hour here as a webinar. My objective is to give you insight so that you understand and make you understand your team better, so that it becomes an excellent organization. It becomes a sustainable organization, not only just a compliant organization. So that's all about this session. Just to give you quick help on this, our services that we do. We are here to help organization in terms of safety and security programs. We are designers, we are all engineers. We can help you in terms of engineering any solutions in terms of fire safety and security that you may have and challenge for. We do a lot of risk assessment for many companies, industrial, commercial, residential, infrastructure. So reach out to us in case you have any specific issues or concern or requirement. In the chat option, you can see a lot of links available here to get in touch with us. We have Facebook group, we have LinkedIn connections, we have ask a question facility where we address your questions, specifically in a video format. So we can do that for your any specific questions for your organization. So reach out to us, feel free to talk to us. This is going to be a continued activity for the entire year. Every month, last Saturday, 11:30, we are going to come here and share the insights on various topics. So next topic in the month of September, we are going to have on safety signages and visuals. So there are a lot of, again, insights required in terms of understanding signages and visuals, how it can enhance your culture of the organization. So we are going to pick up good topics, relevant topics in the form of this safety challenge webinar series on Saturday, 11:30. We have another interesting session that we have started in the month of July. Tomorrow, 11:30, again, we are going to come up with this new webinar that we have started called Build Bharat, which is our intended only for end users specifically. Of course, anybody can join, but specifically it is valued for business owners, managers, safety engineers, fire officers and stuff like that, where we are going to talk about what are their understanding level requirement in terms of fire safety security. So in case you are not registered for this event, please do register. Link is available in the chat box. So tomorrow 11:30 till 1 o'clock, we are going to sit and discuss about fire safety security for all the building owners and panel as such. So that's going to be there. Thank you so much for joining and spending your time here with us. I'm sure this was really helpful for all of you here and understanding the compliances, the new term, or maybe known term for many of us. So thank you again. Let me conclude this session. Thank you so much.